Well done for answering those questions. I hope you did really well. Moving on to the next bit now. So I'm going to tell you some answers. So don't go back and change your answers. You've already done those ones. So Baroque music is music that was composed between 1600 and 1750. Hopefully you remember that from last lesson. It often used ornamented melodies, and you can remember that ornaments are little decorations that are added to the melody. So it's lots of extra notes that are put on the melody to make it sound more complicated. It often has a polyphonic texture, and that's a big word, that one. Remember that poly means many. So it's when there's two or more different melodies that weave in and out of each other that creates polyphonic texture. It often includes a harpsichord. So we looked at a harpsichord in our first lesson. It's got that twangy sound. It looks like a piano, but it sounds twangy. Often includes strings. So strings are things like violins, violas, cellos. And it uses terraced dynamics. So remember, terraced dynamics are when the dynamics change suddenly from loud to quiet or quiet to loud. Today we are moving on to classical music. So classical music came after Baroque music. So we had the Baroque period from 1600 to 1750, and classical music was 1750 to 1825. It includes all music composed by Mozart, Haydn, and some of the music composed by Beethoven, because Beethoven started to compose in the classical period, and then towards the end of his life his music became more romantic. We move away from polyphonic texture. So remember, polyphonic is when there's lots of different melodies that intertwine and play at the same time. And we move into melody and accompaniment, which means there's just one main melody playing at any one time. So it would be one main melody and then some backing. The piano became popular in this time period, so it took over from the harpsichord. So we don't really hear harpsichord in classical music. The clarinet was invented, so we hear the clarinet. Again, you wouldn't have really heard a clarinet in Baroque times. The classical orchestra was often used. Don't worry if you're not sure what that means, but we're going to come on to that a bit later. And our dynamics changed. So we no longer had terraced dynamics. We started using crescendo and diminuendo. Now, crescendo is when you move slowly from quiet to loud, and diminuendo is the opposite. So you move slowly from loud to quiet. So they weren't sudden changes anymore, they were gradual changes.